back again. We made it back. What day is it today? Tuesday, October 29th. Here we go. Another day. Another day. I don't think I have too much to babble about. I don't think. I mean, I could, obviously, easily. I noticed in the feed this morning, a whole bunch of U.S. ballot boxes lit on fire. I think it's Washington State and Oregon and a few other places. People are lighting the ballot boxes on fire. Oh boy. There's so many wackos on the planet, isn't there? Wack-O's. What else? I also noticed in the feed, when there's time to have a glance, it seems there's a weird thing going on right now. There's a lot of people that are creating like a social media channel. And then they somehow, I don't even know how you do it. How do you download somebody else's video and then use it in your video? I don't even know how to do that. But they're doing that. It's like hundreds of people, it seems. There's just these faces, you don't know who they are. And they're downloading other channels' videos to show everybody and go, and listen what they say next. And then they go to the clip of the original channel's content and they try to give their 2 cents on it. And it's a real weird thing for me to watch. It's kind of like, well, the video's already been posted to the public, so why are you doing this again and again and again and again? And that's all you're frickin' doing, is taking other people's content and posting it up on another made channel. It's kind of odd. Kind of odd. I guess it's legal. I don't know. Who knows? But it's kind of weak, isn't it? You think it's kind of weak? Doing that, and they start mimicking each other. That's another thing too. I've never been able to do is mimic someone. Do what they're doing. You know what I mean? Bit of a slight babble there. Probably not making any sense, but I don't really make much sense half the time anyway, do I? Now, one thing I can do is I can share people's voices. Now, I don't believe I've read this. This looks like a long one. And I'm going in. It's the right time. I like when I come across a long one first thing in the morning, right? Then it's like no hesitation. All right, here's a long one. Here we go. But after we got about 4 or 5 people heard, and then you hit a long one, ah, shit, too late, can't do it today. But I always go back and find it and do it again later. Now, it's Toque season. Toque season's in. Finally, skilled chili. Apparently the clocks turned back today or something stupid. Why do they even do that? Seriously. Oh, gonna turn the clocks back an hour. Really? What for? Another little babble I could bite my lip on. Let's just get right into it, shall we? Sasquatch Encounters and the Power of Projection is the title of this email. Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to tell my story. I appreciate the effort that you've given and continue to give on this life-altering subject. Thank you for what you stand for and your no bullshit stance. The ability to hear other people tell of their encounters is so important. Because of my current position, I'm not at liberty for you to disclose my full name. Just call me Pete. All right, I got you, Pete. And I appreciate the kind words, my man. I'm 64 years old and Aboriginal. My mother was Manitoba Cree. Salto Cree. I grew up in southeastern BC, in the East Kootenays, and have hunted and fished since I could hold a rod and a rifle. I spent most of my life in the bush year-round, not just hunting season, paying attention, heard movements relative to any season. Paying attention, heard movements relative to any season, shed hunting and looking for winter kill in the spring of the year, and watching to my dismay the decimation of ungulates by wolves. Yeah, that's been a frustrating one too, unless you go do something about it, which I did for quite a while. And it does make a difference. Listening to a bunch of Grant-slurping hippies tell me about the benefits of a non-regulated wolf populations. The mule deer population seemed to have taken the hardest hit first. I couldn't believe how quickly the mule deer numbers tumbled. Anyway, I have hunted and fished in every drainage within 100 miles of my hometown and a number of areas throughout North America. I literally have thousands of days and hundreds of nights in the Rocky Mountains. Like all serious hunters, we've had our moments with predators. I've been through 2 ugly grizzly encounters and 1 cat, up to no good that I had to shoot while elk hunting. Each instance scared the living crap out of me. Each one was over so fast that when it was over, you had to relive and rethink it. For me, each instance created an adrenaline shake through my entire body. It's important to state this, to put what I'm about to say in perspective. The difference between the effects of a bad predator encounter and what I believe is a Sasquatch presence. All right. Okay, so before we get going, I'm going to comment on what you just shared, because I'll probably forget to. We'll get off topic as we carry on. But the wolves decimated Vancouver out. And cats. And they're just not coming back. I don't know why the deer are just not coming back. The only places people can successfully find or hunt deer is right in towns or next to towns, where the predators seldom go, but they do, but seldom. And as an example, yesterday I was intentionally trying to see where there is some deer sign yesterday, and in a straight line we traveled 55 kilometers, not counting going up the sides of mountains into different drains, and I saw a grand total of 3 different sets of deer tracks. And so probably what, I don't know, 75 kilometers? That's it. It's so sad, it's so pathetic and hard to watch. And they're just not coming back. But the deer are always the first to go. They're the easiest ones to take down, right? It's unfortunate. All right, here we go. On to Sasquatch encounters. I have had encounters, yet never seen one. The encounters are in 3 different locations. I won't go into great detail of each encounter, just enough to give the setting and what took place. What I want to share is the ability of these beings to project feelings into you. The first is an area that had low ridge at about 4,000 feet, have no log landing. You could see across the logged off area for about 200 yards in a 180-degree arc. At the edge of the clearing, a fairly mature spruce forest stood erect, what we might call the black timber. Hold on, I'm going to scare that rooster away. He's right outside my door. Sorry. Problem solved. Probably should have just shot him. All right, one more time. At the edge of the clearing, a fairly mature spruce forest stood erect, what we would call the black timber. A great place for elk. We went back to this area 5 times over the course of an elk season to bugle or cow call elk. We were successful with 1, sometimes 3 different bulls responding. Every time, within 1 or 2 responding bugles, there would be a loud whack. Oof. Like a baseball bat hitting a dead snag. You could tell that the noise of the loud whacks was between us and the elk. Then the knocking would continue from 2 to 3 different locations within the tall black timber. The bulls would immediately become silent. After a number of these whacks, this would stop. And this was before I ever heard anything about tree knocking. Twice my partner and I crossed into the black timber and found nothing but moss and trees. What we did find was that the moment we went into the big timber, we were both overcome with a sense of being watched. We were about 150 yards apart. The further we went in, the worse it got. It changed from being watched to leave. It was not a sense of intense fear of death, but that of danger with a clear feeling of leave. It was overwhelming. We both felt the same way. I knew that we did because our distance apart was rapidly closing. When we were a few yards apart and I looked at my partner's face, no words needed to be said. We were not panicked or ready to run, but an intense, urgent feeling to leave. I looked at him and nodded. He motioned with his hand to the direction of the landing, excuse me, and we pulled back. There was a strangeness about it, a heaviness, like we were retreating. That's the best word to describe it. When we talked about this back at the landing, we knew then, as we do now, the words to describe the overpower feeling are difficult to find. The second encounter was in a creek bottom about an hour after dark in late September. We had built a good fire at our camp that was about 15 yards from a creek. 5 of us were sitting around talking of the day's hunt. It was our last night. We're having a few road pops with a few crude jokes and laughing. There was a momentary lull in our antics when directly across the creek from us, a loud, and I mean loud, shriek/scream let go. It was so close, too close. Nobody moved or said anything. Nobody had ever heard anything like it. Everyone looked at each other like, does anybody have any idea as to what the F that was? The feeling was not like that tree whack area. This seemed angry. It was strange that it was only talked about for a few brief moments, then avoided. It was amazing to see 5 grown men quickly grab the rifles, chamber around without a word, and stare into the darkness. No one wanting to show fear. All good, seasoned hunters. The evening didn't last too much longer. First thing in the morning after a poor sleep, we all pulled out. There was no day hunt. No one wanted to hunt there. You see, it wasn't just the scream. It was the intense feeling of fear that accompanied the scream. The third encounter was about 100 yards from a thick creek bottom. Again with my lifelong hunting partner. Again during elk season. It had been a fairly warm day, and we were confident that the elk we were after would be in the cool creek bottom. It was early evening, and there was a low, round ridge between us and the creek, just enough to give us cover from prying eyes. Because we were so close to the creek, I turned 180 degrees from the creek and bugled in the opposite direction. Immediately, and I mean immediately, at the end of my bugle from the creek bottom came a long, bellowing roar, like nothing I or he had ever heard. There was such ferocity and strength in the roar that it overwhelmed us. You could feel it inside your body. This was more than angry. This struck such a deep fear. I don't like to admit it. I've only been afraid of a few times in my life, but never have I felt anything like this. I threw up my .338 and told myself, get ready. My partner threw up his rifle, and we waited, safeties off. Both of us struggling with the thought of, what the hell was that? And trying to shake the fear off. Then, there was a loud crash of something, and then nothing. Just silence. I'm a confident person, and I have confidence in my rifle. But not that day. I've taken an 8'2" grizzly and many elk with that rifle, but I knew inside that it would not be adequate for whatever that was just 100 yards away. God, that is such frickin' intense sound. Like, I haven't experienced it. I do not believe I want to. I am surprised I haven't. But if I can remember, I want to explain to you guys at the end of this exactly what a rifle can do. What I find important about these 3 events is that in each circumstance, there's a deep feeling inside with each encounter. A feeling that has never left me. For all of us, when we encounter something, anything of magnitude, we enjoy sharing the event. Not so when it comes to this. It's like when you have met something that has outclassed you or is superior to you. You've been put in your place, outmatched. Also, you're not acceptable to the space of their presence. You tend to become quiet or humbled by the experience. So when you're brave to tell your story and some asshole mocks you, it hits in a different way. Nobody boasts of any encounter. It's a sobering event. And when I listen to the stories from hunters, it's not the glittering high five for an awesome bull or massive buck, but the story of, I've seen something that scared the hell out of me, humbled me, and got inside me. It's not the elusiveness, size, or strength of the being that is worrisome and impressive. That is to be respected, but their ability to project into your very soul. This, I believe, is the point. It's not what you have seen or heard that affects you so much, but how it got inside of you. It cannot be explained properly. Only when you speak with someone who has had an experience can it be understood. I never want to see one or feel their presence again. In closing, I've tried to go back and hunt these 3 areas, and it doesn't work. When I grabbed my kit and rifle, and when I did try to go back into into one of these areas, I didn't make it too far, and I would turn around as the intense feeling came back. I have no problem going to where I had the grizzly challenges or my cougar problem and hunting, but not in the above-mentioned areas. For me, these areas are taboo. Not so much from what happened, but what took place inside of me. I'll never hunt those areas again. P.S. Thank you. I was able to get this out of me. The stories I've watched in your YouTube site have allowed me to open up. These incidents took place over the course of my hunting life. I've tried a few times to bring the subject up to a few individuals. The result was the start of instant mockery. Since then, I've never discussed this with anyone, not even my own children. I've now spoken to them about this. Your platform has made this possible for me to open up. Again, thank you. For the bastards that try to give you a hard time, I like the way you tell them I'm pissed off. I hope this didn't become a short novel. And here's thoughts from some of your videos. Number 1, you mentioned that you've been questioned as to why bow hunters tend to have more encounters than anyone else. As a bow hunter, you know we hunt in different terrain. If we can see 50 yards, we're happy. So we tend to be in the thicker shit. Our kills are closer, much like any predator. So we tend to run at other predators up close and personal. Rifle hunting, we tend to be in more open country. We're the only animal that can long-range hunt. That can long-range kill. Take advantage of this. To take advantage of this as rifle hunters, we are in areas more easily spotted or seen. Number 2, I was keenly involved in martial arts for a number of years. One of the instructors I spent time with was a South Korean who was a former instructor with their special forces. We talked a lot about the projection of thought. I have applied this to hunting. We would say that in order to take out a sentry or guard, when you spot them from a distance, never look directly at them. Look at a branch above their head or the ground beneath their feet. If you look directly at them, regardless of the time of day or night, their subconscious will automatically become more aware. Your thoughts have been projected. It works great on animals as well. Maybe this is what these beings can do at a far greater level than us. Number 3, tree knocking and hitting 2 sticks together. When I was a little kid, maybe 10 years old, I was playing at my grandmother's house. She was Cree. I was banging 2 sticks together. She stopped me and told me to come and listen. She said, "That is very dangerous. It can scare off danger, but it can bring the beast out of the forest. So never do that, unless you have to. Because the hairy beast will come and get you, and we will never see you again." I've seen your YouTube of the people who said that the beings were banging sticks together outside their tent. It made me think of my grandmother's warning. Also, my grandmother's people know and accept that the beings exist. They are known to my people as Shayanka, or sometimes Witiko, Chiyanka, or sometimes Witiko, Witico. End of email. There you go. There you go. More elk hunters. Members of the club. Didn't ask for it. Don't seem to be enjoying it. Now, before I forget, the quick mention on what kind of doesn't really freak me out. Well, whatever. It's when people explain the sound, the roar of these roars, the screams. I mean, I've heard some weird sounds out there, verbal sounds, but I haven't experienced the soul-threatening roars. But when people say and especially experienced hunters say they knew they were outgunned. I mean, this man just said he had a .338. And that brought a memory back I'm going to share with all you. Now, for me, I used to have a .338 Magnum. I have a 300 Ultra Mag, which is bigger than that. It's like a frickin' small rocket launcher. And I used to bring that as a backup rifle guiding up north when I was doing my guided grizzly hunts, right? Obvious reasons. This is what I can tell you about a .338 Magnum and what it does so that you can understand my in awe in a way of how many people say, even though they've got a Magnum hunting rifle with them, how they feel outgunned. And they quote, I knew my gun wouldn't do anything, end quote. And that's so, it's such a statement that I really listen to because it makes me kind of go, what? Now, 338 Magnum. Listen to this. So the farther north you go in North America with the ungulates, the larger their body gets in size. So it's called Bergman's Law. It's a biological term. You can Google it up. It pertains to the body mass needs to be larger. Larger body mass the further in the northern hemisphere you get for ungulates to survive. So I might have explained this in the past. I know I've explained it on my hunting videos. So to show you an example of this, you can get a white-tailed deer in Texas. And a big one's going to be like 140 pounds. Right? Big, mature, 6-year-old, 7, 8-year-old buck, 140 pounds. And then you can go to northern BC or northern Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, and a white-tailed deer, a big, mature male, is going to be up around 400 pounds. Right? Moose, you can go down in Wyoming, etc., where it's a Shiras moose, and they're going to be around, 800 pounds. You get up to Alaska, northern BC, they're going to be up around 12, 14, 1,600 pounds. Okay? So, that's a big chunk of meat, right? I mean, a lot of people here, when they see these people, they've been described as 1,000 pounds. Plus. Yet they feel undergunned, which, I mean, I'm listening. I believe what these people are feeling. But it's just so hard for me to accept the fact that a 338 or even a 300 Magnum, which I have, is going to be undergunned. And here's why. So one time, my guide partner and I had two different hunters. They weren't with each other, but they were in the same camp. And we knew they were getting sheep. We got them both big rams right away as a 2-week hunt. And then they wanted to get a moose. Secondary animal. And we knew this one place early season before the moose rut where there would probably be a herd of bachelor bulls. So it only made sense to take them both the same place, same time, which we rarely do because they are not together and they want their own separate hunt. Okay? So we're sitting on this thing. We have a glassing knob. We go ride up our horses, couple hour ride, and then we tie up the horses, climb up to the top of this rolling hill, and we sit up there with our spotting scopes, binoculars, and glass over this long, big open willow flat. A couple spruce on it. We're just getting to tree line. And it's like a game of Frogger, I call it, because all of a sudden you sit there long enough and moose starts standing up in the willow from laying down. There's 1, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5 over there. That's what it's like. And it's early season. These bulls are all fattened right up. They're huge before they get rutted up. Anyway, my partner took his hunter down there, probably, I don't know, 500 or 600 yards from us, and we're watching them stalk this great big moose. If I had to guess this moose's body weight, I don't know. Conservative, 1,200 pounds. Okay? Conservative, 1,200 pounds. And in my spotting scopes, I got the view of a round scope like this. I'm watching through my spotting scope. It's like a telescope for all you who are not familiar. On a tripod. I got one right here. This is a spotting scope right here. And you look through it. And you can zoom in. Right? And so they're so far away, I can see the moose standing with his ass to me, facing directly away. So I'm looking at him from butt to head, directly away from me. And in the same field of view, I can see my guide partner and his hunter to the left, my left of the moose. And they are probably about, I don't know, 150 yards. And I vividly remember the guy had a 338, just like this man mentioned in his video. And I'm watching the spot scope, and all of a sudden that 1,200 pound chunk of meat starts literally going sideways away from the hunter's rifle. He's going sideways, and he's trying to scramble to get all 4 of his feet underneath his body as he literally got smashed to the side and kept on going, and then boom, fell down dead. So what I'm explaining to you who don't know, and hunters who haven't had a moose, that 338 smashed a 1,200 pound chunk of meat sideways for about 20 feet, 15 feet. What? So when you know that, and then you hear experienced hunters saying, I was carrying a 300 Magnum, or I was carrying a 30-06, I was carrying my 338, and I knew it wasn't enough gun. Just from the sound. So from what I know of what that rifle will do to over 1,000 pounds of something, which is kill it dead with one shot like nothing, and smash it sideways, holy shit, that's an intimidating frickin' sound, isn't it? There's gotta be something frickin' else. Right? I mean, that's how my brain's picking this apart. I mean, my 300 Ultra Mag is so hard, which is bigger than a 338. It's so hard for me to picture feeling undergunned or threatened in any way with that thing in my hands. It's very hard to picture, but I'm picking up what they're putting down when they describe it here to us, right? Imagine how terrifying this gotta be? That sound? Holy shit. Picking up what I'm putting down yet? Anyway, there we go. There's another one. I wrote down a quick note yesterday when I was daydreaming away with my dog in the woods. And you know how people, who knows how many, probably thousands, have reported into us that all of a sudden their electronics went dead. Their fully charged phone went dead. Their fully charged camera battery went dead. Trail camera went dead. Whatever, everything went dead. The car went dead. Killed the electricity. But the shit came back on a time later after their encounter. So what I'm curious about is, I wonder if, excuse me, a lot of these beings are seen on the outskirts of homes, seen when the motion light goes off in the yard. What I'm curious about is, so what kind of voltage or amperage are we talking? What's their max for shutting it down? Because I don't think we've heard of anybody losing power in their house yet while looking out the window at one of these people. Have we? If we have, let me know about it, because I don't think we have. Right? Obviously, whatever's going down shuts down electronics. But has anybody lost power in their home, or the street block, or the street light, or the street light and the house? I wonder. What's their limit on the electricity they can shut down? Valid question, don't you think? All right, this is titled Recent Encounter. So earlier in May of this year, I drive with my mom to navigate a rural forestry road while there were enforcer curfews on tribal land. We drove along a deserted logging road to get away from the confines of her apartment due to the pandemic. My mom can still hike quite well at her place, so she enjoys these trips. We drove quite a distance, approximately 25 miles, and came upon a deserted village of quaking aspen. Leaning structures, logs laid to rest in circular structures, everything in a particular and solemn array. My mom is a very intuitive person. We are both Native American. I dream of what will come to pass. My late dad had that gift too. What people call premonitions, I think. We explored the area and there was a feeling of sadness and tears shed. She was overcome with emotion. So I said a silent prayer prior to our departure. I left a gift of a granola bar and some seeds for the birds. We drove home, back into our rural town. And that night, she dreamt she had a full conversation with the beings. I told her I sensed them following us home. In our culture, there's a technique called crystal gazing, used by medicinal people. So they literally look into the crystal to seek what they are looking for. The purpose is to advise the afflicted patient what course of action they need to take to address their dilemma. Usually, they'd have to consult a medicinal practitioner for traditional ceremony, etc. In the dream, my mother said the beings used a similar tactic to track you home, sense who is coming to their territory, and how to keep track of you throughout your life if necessary. In her dream, the beings went about their daily activities, conversing, eating together and treating her as a welcome guest. As she sat on a log watching some youngsters play, one adult being walked up to her from behind and told her several youngsters passed away from sickness in that area, so they decided to move on after the winter. They know we came to visit and where we live now. She said, "Thank you for not disturbing the area." Sorry, they said, "Thank you for not disturbing the area." So before you even walk into the forest, they get a good sense of your intentions prior to your arrival. They are very intelligent and fast. I've had several dreams of them coming to visit, even watching us, viewing Sasquatch on TV in the evenings, if the program is on. They cloak themselves for security and become invisible to the human eyes. In our language, Navajo, Dene, pronounced Dine, meaning the people, we call Sasquatch Ye Tso, giants. We are forbidden to talk or mention them. It is believed that if you talk or mention them, it's a form of summoning them to you or your home. I'm telling you this because, whoops, oopsies, stuck those in there this time. I'm telling you this because I agree with you on not shooting Sasquatch in the forest. Retribution is not something people should not take lightly. These beings will take retroactive action. I enjoy listening to the stories you tell, seeing the horses, and also the end clips included. Keep doing what you do. I'm a female Marine veteran. I only wanted to share this encounter with you. My privacy is very important to me and my family. Thank you for sharing. That's a confusing ending. Okay, so I left your name out, right? All right. Gotcha. I love it when the Native Americans email in. It's valuable info for me. Take from it what you will or leave it. But for me, it's very valuable information. Love it. Coincidentally, I'm going with I got to go pick up my First Nations superhero ladies. I got to pick them up today and go to a bit of a, I don't even know what to call it. I'm just going to go support them at a bit of a meeting today. A couple hours. What do we got here? I do not know. I'm going in. Not too long. Crazy stuff happened after you shared my first story. Northeast paddock and moonlit silhouette. Hi, Steve. Thanks to you and the club in return for the continued sharing of information on your channel. I do look forward to the latest posts each day. My name is George. I'm 65 years old from Melbourne, Australia. This is a follow-up email detailing some crazy stuff that happened after you shared my story entitled The Northeast Paddock and the Moonlit Foxhead-like Silhouette. Around the end of March 24, in your YouTube video titled Some Real Odd Photos Came In Today, at timestamp 28:25. When I rewatched the video, my writing sounded very odd with an overemphasis on compass points, etc. I think I was actually walking and visualizing the farm in my head as I was writing. Weird. In summary, my first email came about after being triggered by events detailed in someone's share you read on your channel. The experiences I detailed occurred on my relative's farm when I was 8 to 10 years old. Specifically, the incredibly strong feelings of being watched, the dead silence, the uneasiness / fear, and the smell of decay / death. Also, the experience of a canine-like silhouette on the curtain, backlit by moonlight. Incidentally, I've noticed quite a few stories are recounted by people from, when they were around 10 years old. Excuse me, you guys. Is there anything in that, do you think? Dunno. I became a bit obsessed about trying to remember more, as I felt what I'd recalled wasn't the full story. I've had nothing to do with the farm since it was sold maybe 50 years ago. I searched online for any sightings in that area, news articles, etc., and I found very little, except for some real estate aerial photos of neighboring farms, which also showed my relative's farm. This aerial visual of the northeast paddock helped me focus on that precise area while trying to recover any additional memories. Interestingly, someone shared his story shortly after you read out mine. The location he mentioned was about 30 kilometers north of my relative's farm. He was driving down the highway with his mate after midnight, coming back from a night out in Moe, Victoria, Australia. There was no other traffic and a thick fog. While traveling at slow speed, they encountered what sounded like a dogman type creature. Their headlights shone on it, crouched in the middle of the highway. I don't remember the video name, but I think it was read out a week or two after mine. In a recent video, you said, "Send in the crazy stuff too," referring to what people should share. Well, you asked for it. I've held it back for 6 or 7 months, as it's, well, crazy. In the days after you read my first share, I focused hard on trying to recover any further memories, as I felt there was more to the story. One night, just after going to bed, I remembered having heard single wood knocks in the northeast paddock adjacent to forest. They sounded like I'd imagine swinging a length of large bamboo against solid wood might make. Sort of hollow, not very loud, but noticeable. I don't know why, but while lying there visualizing the hot spot in the northeast paddock, in my head I asked, "Was that really you?" Meaning the hairy forest folk. I still feel there is more to that story that I haven't recalled. Over the next couple of nights, I became very uneasy. I'd go to bed after midnight, and within minutes there was the sound of what I initially thought was a possum running across the roof over my bedroom. This wasn't uncommon at certain times of the year, when the large native tree at the back corner of the house was in blossom. This normally occurred 1 to 2 hours after sunset and was nowhere near as loud. The ringtail possums had a light gait, and the brush-tails a heavier gait. What I heard over those 2 nights had a similar pattern, but was a lot louder, and made the tin sheets literally rattle loudly. This, together with the later hour, and being just after I got into bed, was just freaky. On the second night, in my head I asked, "Is that you?" I don't know why I did that. I suppose I sort of hoped for a mind-speak reply. I then tried to go to sleep, and a few minutes later I opened my eyes, and through the darkness I could just make out something in the ceiling, in the front corner of the room. It looked like a sort of a blurry-edged hole in the ceiling with a large, hair-lined face staring at me from within the hole. This all sounds quite crazy. It had large, exaggerated features with a human-like face. I think I recall it even had a smile on its face. I didn't feel threatened, just very shocked by seeing it. Was it a dream? Or was I just losing it? At the time, it certainly felt very real. Feeling very uneasy and now somewhat fearful, I started rebuking whatever it was in the name of the Lord, just as some here have suggested previously. I also put the message out of my head that they weren't welcome in my house and weren't invited. Not intentionally. I hadn't prayed since I was a kid. Now seemed like a good time to start again. I was very uneasy entering the bedroom each night for a few weeks. One thing I noticed was that during the first week or so, I started having some long and very vivid dreams, like 4K clarity and vivid color. Unlike normally, I'd remember a fair portion of these dreams upon waking. Nothing of major significance that I could make out. Sometimes people I knew, but mostly people and places I didn't know, all in complex, high detail. What was that about? The third weird thing was the night I was asleep and awoken by a blinding, pure, white light through my eyelids. I opened my eyes, but nothing there. Just darkness. No thunderstorm/lightning, no car outside, no one entering the room and letting a flash off. My door creaks. Said, "What the F" to myself and went back to sleep. The last experience is by far the craziest. This night I was having a bad dream with the feeling something was severely tormenting me. There were no visuals in the dream. When I realized I was dreaming, I was yelling at myself to wake up in my head. When I finally managed to force my eyes open, I caught a glimpse of something in the darkness. It was a silhouette, crouching low on all fours, right beside me on the bed. Spindly arms and legs. Body was very slight. Head was angular with a sharp outline. Pointy chin. Straight sides of the head with the top of the head having many irregular, elongated, triangular-like shapes pointing straight up. Its head was angled back to face me. The body was parallel to me with the head towards the foot of the bed. At a guess, I'd say its size is maybe 4 to 5 feet, if standing. No feeling of weight on the bed. I felt it was an evil presence. This crouching figure had a silhouette with the sharpest, clearest, darkest, pure black, standing out in the near darkness as distinctly as a light would, if that makes any sense. The edges of the silhouette had like a wavy blurriness, maybe 2 inches inward, bordering the figure's sharp, pure black silhouette. What the F? By his posture, it seemed surprised and freaked out that I had seen it. When I blinked, it was gone. Some barely audible noises of the storage boxes in the room creaking as it disappeared. My eyes could barely make out anything in the room due to the lack of light. Sort of like a very dark black/gray analog. A TV test pattern, snowiness. Normal for me in the near darkness. I guess my eyes' light receptors were grasping for available sign of any dimly lit objects. I was stunned and scared by this. Started praying in the name of the Lord, commanding this thing to stay away. I was terrified entering the room the next couple of nights, but prayed as soon as I got into bed. Nothing but a couple of creaks of the storage boxes after that. Probably nothing sinister. Had a couple of light taps on the window from outside once or twice, but nothing since. Things settled down and I haven't felt the fear anymore. I haven't mentioned any of the accounts above to anyone. Before sharing the first story, I hadn't thought about the past experiences on the farm. In fact, I hadn't connected the dots. After all this crazy stuff I just detailed, I now pray every night. Not about this stuff usually. I also don't focus my thoughts on any of these experiences so as not to inadvertently invite anything into my home through my ignorance. I feel somewhat shell-shocked, but it hasn't dampened my interest in the Sabe topic. Okay then, there you have the crazy. For me, I guess the takeaway is not to take these topics too lightly. Inadvertently inviting crazy into your house ain't much fun. Best regards, George. No, I don't imagine it is. We've had enough crazy shit going on in our house here the past few years. Not enough to keep us on edge, but we've had shit going on in here. Thanks for sending it in, man. I'm sure you just touched in on somebody else's story, and they're probably shaking their head. No way, him too? Probably, right? Without a doubt. No thank you. Nope, I don't need anything like that happening in my bedroom. Where am I going from here? Do I keep going? My brain's starting to go somewhere else. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to get one more short one shared. This one's older, but not marked as red, and I know the name. And then I'm going to get out the door and get my day ripping here. I can't be late for my ladies. I'm 49 and I've hunted the area since 1983. The day was Thursday, October 29th, 2020. With about an hour and a half of daylight left, I drove up to Hospice Hill, a spot I found in 2013 where the old mature black-tailed buck seemed to go. I'd already filled my deer tag the Sunday before, but I'd come back up Wednesday to scout for a couple days to see what I missed out on. I parked my truck and walked 600 yards through the heavily vegetated cut to the gate leading into a brand new cut area. I was just past the gate where a creek runs through and crosses the road just before the gate. The wind was blowing, quartering toward me, back down toward the creek. And all of a sudden, something very heavy crashed out of the creek bottom. I thought maybe a bear, an elk, or a cow, which we occasionally have in the area. A few steps later, I heard a loud knock from where the crash noise was, like someone took a wooden baseball bat and whacked it against a big fir tree. I wheeled around and stared in that direction. About 5 seconds later, there were 2 wood knocks on up the hill in the timber, maybe 200 yards away. It sounded again like someone took a baseball bat and hit a tree. The double knock was so quick, though, that they wouldn't have had time to wind up. It would have been swinging and hitting, and then immediately swinging the other way and hitting. I wasn't afraid, since I was in the wide open, in the new cut with the closest trees/brush some 40 yards away. I finished my loop and arrived back at my truck just after dark with no further incidents. I drove back to camp, which is 2.7 miles as the crow flies from where I was. At 19:10, I stepped out of my trailer to take a leak, and I could hear either a strange-sounding wolf — we don't have wolves in the area — or a Sasquatch from camp. It was a howl/yell/roar I'd never heard before. It sounded approximately half a mile away, back toward where I heard the wood knocks. It had to be extremely loud where it's coming from, but I couldn't pick the roars up on my phone when I tried recording. It roared 7 to 8 times before I went back in to finish my dinner. I went back outside around 20 minutes later, but heard nothing out of the ordinary, and I didn't sleep well that night. No doubt. We've had several other encounters in the Mount Adams area, or at least possible encounters in the area since 2012. I sent you an email of an actual sighting my dad and I had in 2012, but probably got lost in all your emails. Tom Fish, Tom! What if I should go back and try to find that, or maybe email it to me again, maybe even? Mount Adams. There you go, you guys. Mount Adams. Where's that? Washington or Oregon? Mount Adams. Mount Adams. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna look because I can. I can. 1 second. Mount Adams. Oops. Washington, Yakima County. Yakima County, Washington. There it is. Another volcano by the looks of it, right? For sure. Oh, God, it's right. There's a triangle. A triangle of them. Mount Rainier to the top. Mount St. Helens and Mount Adams off to the side. All hot spots. All hot spots. Crazy, huh? Crazy. Look, and there's me. There's my current position on the planet today. Excuse me. All right, well, here we go. Out the door I go. What is it, Tuesday? I hope everybody votes. Get your votes in no matter what country you're in. If you have an election coming up, you better go out and vote your ass off. Go get somebody else to, too. We emptied the house here, and we all went and voted when we had a chance a week ago. And apparently it's so close, they're still counting ballots. Do I have any confidence in the voting machines? Nope. But we'll see, right? We shall see. There's nothing you could do to convince me that Canada and the U.S., let alone a bunch of other countries, is currently ran by criminals. Absolute criminals. Okay, I'll bite my lip. All right, I gotta get going. Share my story, howtohunt.com. Get your truth shared. It's shared word for word here, all right? And nobody is more special than anybody in this world, in this club. Everybody's equal. Everyone is equal. There's no experts, definitely no celebrities, and nobody we need to answer to at all. We just share with each other. The club of no return, right? Sarah still has a whole pile of these things in her store, I think. I don't know how many she has. I don't know. But they're there. and more. And I will be back tomorrow. Was it the 30th? Was it 31 days in this month? What do we got? I feel like I'm leaving like tomorrow. I don't know. I might have 3 days here, 4 days tops. And I'm out of here to the north. And I figured out how to run my Starlink from my pickup truck while I'm driving. So that means I can take you guys along live. I already know where I'm going to take you to some places on this upcoming hunt. And I'm going to stream live and share a lot with the world while I'm gone. I think that's going to be pretty damn cool. Okay, here we go. Back tomorrow.